On this episode of my so-called podcast, we are going back to the week of December 17th, 1990.
That's right, Gary. That's when Devo released their greatest hits, and Brian DePalma and his studio Warner Brothers said, here it is, the Bonfire of the Vanities.
Like the past. You never know where you were, you can't. The movie never changes. It can't change, but
No, I can't.
every time you see it, it seems different because you're different. You see different things.
Hey, welcome to my so-called podcast. I am Gary Linton.
And it's me, Eric Spiegel.
It's your boy, Eric.
And it's your boy. And we're here to bring you a week in the 90s with an album and a movie that were released that week. We're going deep. We're going deep, deep, deep this week, Gary. Deep into the 90s, all the way back to the first 90.
Well, I mean, yes, but our previous episode, we went even, because our previous episode was January 1990. This is December 1990. So, should we just do that, Eric? Should our next one be January 91 and then December 91 and just do our counting for the next?
I mean, it's going to be hard to find a bunch of January movies we really want to watch.
Yeah.
In the 90s, it was not a place for quality cinema.
No. Right. Tremors was one that was just dumped in the theaters.
Yep. It was damn lucky that it wasn't straight to video like all of its sequels.
That's right. But this week, we're talking about a big December release, Bonfire of the Vanities, from a big December director, right? Brian DePalma.
Yeah, when you think of awards bait, you think Brian DePalma.
Yeah.
Every time.
BDP. That's what everybody's called.
BDP. We need to print some more money. Can we get DePalma in here?
That's right. And then Devo. It's a bit of a cheat. We're listening to Devo's greatest hits. But, you know, what are you going to do?
I mean, it came out in the 90s.
That's true. But, you know, we usually take, and I mean, is it an album? I guess that you're getting pretty existential there. Is it greatest hits an album? What's your definition of an album?
I mean, I think Tom Petty's greatest hits is a great album. I that's how I experienced a lot of those songs, and I think they go together really well.
Yeah, that's true.
And give me a break, man. How many hits can one guy have? That guy's awesome.
He was a hit maker, yeah.
I heart Tom Petty.
The funny thing about Tom Petty is I always said, I never, you know, when you think about like who's some artists that you really like, it's, you know, you never think Tom Petty, but anytime one of his songs come on, it's like, I really like this song.
Right.
You know?
It's like I never fell in love with him in the present tense. I just know I liked almost all of the songs that I heard, like a B plus, and there's like a few A's.
Yeah.
I wonder why I wasn't like a huge Tom Petty fan. Well, we could have been going to Tom Petty concerts for 30 years.
That's right. That's my greatest regret.
Yeah, well, and then there was that one time in college.
Yeah, we don't talk about that, Eric.
I didn't say anything
That's
about
right.
what you did.
Good.
Last summer.
Right. Speaking of monkeypox, no.
So these things really don't go together, and the cultural landscape is the cheat, I guess, is what if you were going to say something, because obviously Devo was sort of forming in the 70s and huge in the early 80s.
That's right.
Wouldn't you say? Yeah. So
yeah.
Culturally, I mean, the Bonfire of the Vanities is based on a book that's about the 80s. That's about as close as you're going to get to link these two things. Although, I mean, you could jazz up a few scenes in this movie by adding a little Devo.
Agreed. Yeah, that probably would have helped.
I mean, we never got that madcap Strangelove thing that De Palma was apparently shooting for. So maybe some Devo? Like whenever Tom Hanks is blowing holes in the set.
That's right. Yeah.
With a room full of people.
It's a beautiful world we're living.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Right.
I don't think that De Palma would have liked that because he thought music videos were trash. So he wasn't a big fan of having music acted out on screen.
I bet he would make. I wonder if he would make a music video now, like his buddy Steven Spielberg.
I don't know. I don't think that De Palma was trying to be Steven Spielberg ever.
No, he wasn't.
They have a really interesting
De Palma's
friendship.
still alive,
because,
right? He's not. He hasn't died.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Okay.
He's still alive. They have but De Palma's career is in the past.
That's true.
But anyway, they had an early interesting friendship because Brian did his thing, with varying degrees of success, and Steven Spielberg just kept conquering the world. But they stayed friends, and they kept the business out of it for the most part, which is like pretty surprising.
Yeah.
But anyway, we could talk more. I mean, I'm going to maybe talk a little too much about the Bonfire of the Vanities because
well, we better get to that second half of the podcast where we do talk about it.
Right. I know we're going to get to it. But I was just going to say I read the behind the scenes before I watched the movie, which is an interesting way to experience this movie, and I'll get to it later. But the first half we're going to talk about Devo, set against a backdrop of the pop songs on the radio. I mean, we just talked about 1990 in January, like you said. So almost a year later, we were 12,
yes.
13.
Yeah.
We were 12. You turned, yeah. Is that right?
1990, I turned 13. Yes. So we were 12. This week that this came out, I'm 10 days away from turning 13.
Right. So 13, I guess, are we halfway through the 6th grade or 7th? 7th grade, probably.
Yes.
Right.
7th grade.
I remember getting a note from Jenny Adams. We wrote notes to each other a lot.
Yes.
And I remember getting one from her in holiday pen, so red and green alternating words.
Right.
And she was telling me, I'm on my bed listening to the New Kids on the Block Christmas album.
Oh.
It wasn't, it was like she was doing her homework.
Right.
That was basically what notes were. I'm sitting here and doing this is what I'm doing. And now I will write you back later.
And that's, that moved on to Twitter. That's what Twitter was when it first came out.
Right, but except for it wasn't performative. It
No.
never was. It was just communication between two people.
So that's what we were doing. Yeah, we're 13. We don't do anything. We like to say what's going on in the world.
Did you remember anything other than my wonder? I mean, my memory was really specific.
It was, and I remember it. So... let's see, the 7th grade, Christmas, 7th grade. No.
What do you think you wanted for Christmas?
Let's see, as a 7th grader. So I don't think I was into, there was a while at Christmases where I would get, so no, this has to be too early for that. I would get CD sets. I got Pink Floyd, I got Velvet Underground, I got The Who. Those were 3 different Christmases where I would get these, you're buying 7 CDs of these great bands. So they got a little pricey. And so those were Christmas gifts for a while. But I think those were my high school years. So 7th grade, I mean, maybe a Nintendo game, a Super Nintendo game,
Yeah. Were you playing that at that time?
Yeah, that's why I had the Super Nintendo.
So that's I was kind of thinking was what I got was in the video game category, but and then my guess is it was one of the King's Quest V, Absence Makes the Heart Go Yonder, came out November 9th in 1990. So I'm pretty sure that I got that for Christmas because I was really excited. It came on CD-ROM, Gary.
Yes.
So the characters, when they talked, you'd hear a voice coming out of your sound card.
Oh, nice.
And King Graham has this like talking owl as his companion, and it has the most annoying voice. His name's Cedric, and he's like, "Oh, you should go over there." And I played it with my kids a while back, and they really hated Cedric's voice.
Oh, sure. So I guess
we played through all the King's Quests recently with my children.
Really? And they didn't like it, or were they happy with it?
Oh yeah, they liked it.
Okay.
I mean, they're old games, but it's like puzzles, so it kind of doesn't matter that it's not that great of graphics because it's like a pretend thing with puzzles. So I don't know. It's good. It's great.
So yeah, real-time follow-up, I guess, is that I would not have gotten a Super Nintendo because the Super Nintendo wasn't released until 1991 in North America. So, and I did get that the next Christmas, the Super Nintendo as my.
So you might have gotten like a Dr. Mario for your NES or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe a Nintendo game. So
you ever played Dr. Mario?
Yes.
Such a shameless Tetris ripoff, wasn't
it? Yeah. Well, I mean Yeah, I mean, if you say Tetris invented falling blocks and trying to clear stuff, but Dr. Mario brought a twist.
Yeah. No, I never played it. I just always thought, oh, this looks a lot like Tetris. But you're saying it felt different to you.
Yeah. It's different enough.
Well, it must have been fun because I remember that was the only computer game I think, or video game I saw being played in the girls' dorm at Johnston. Alicia's roommate, also named Alicia, would play Dr. Mario a lot.
Oh, well, all right.
That's a free memory from 1997.
So yeah, you don't say we don't give you anything, listener.
Yeah, I mean, this is bonus nostalgia on the first half of the podcast. But should we figure out what was on the charts? Because I'll tell you what, it was not deep.
No, we do a little bit of trivia first.
Oh, trivial 90s is like I like to call it.
That's right. We keep score. We do. I don't know what the score is. So the previous.
It's 11-8. You.
Oh yeah, I have that written down there too. Yep. Okay. So you want to go first, or should I go first? You usually.
I'll go first, Gary.
Okay.
What phrase does a fast typing cyber chatter shorten to IMHO?
Oh, in my humble opinion.
That's correct, Gary.
All right.
Hey.
Eric, what last-minute replacement subbed for Winona Ryder as Mary Corleone in The Godfather 3? Why is it what last replacement? That's not very nice.
It's the answer is Sofia Coppola.
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, her performance was pretty wooden, but she's still a human being. Come on, trivia question.
Yeah, I mean, maybe she needed to go through that heartache to become a great director.
Yeah, maybe. So.
I mean, she definitely has some a real understanding of loneliness she can put on screen.
Yes, yeah.
I was thinking about that because Bruce Willis is kind of a jerk in the early 90s with a lot of limited range. But then later on, he became a much better actor, I feel like. You know, like the beginning of our show from 12 Monkeys. He's great in that.
Yes.
Pretty limited in 1990, though, I think. Or 89 when they filmed this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so is it your turn to ask me some more?
No, I just asked you. You got Sofia Coppola. So you asked me a question now.
What quirky TV series featured an FBI agent who liked his coffee black as the midnight without a moonlight?
Oh, is that Twin Peaks?
Yeah, it's Agent Dale Cooper
That's right.
from Twin Peaks, Washington.
That's right. What songstress became the first singer since Elvis Presley to score a 40th gold album? So what singer, female singer?
Oh, okay. A 40th gold album. How about Barbra Streisand?
That's correct.
She has some longevity.
Yes.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Well, career-wise and human-wise.
Okay.
What Cuban-born singer had 2 8-inch steel rods implanted to steady her spine after a tractor-trailer rear-ended her tour bus?
I believe that was Gloria Estefan. All right.
Yeah, I kind of remember that it kind of seemed like Gloria Estefan was going to die there for a minute.
Yeah,
because the news came out about this thing. I remember that. I liked me some Gloria Estefan, like the late 80s. I don't know why, but I did when I was like 10. Loved her.
All right, there's another little bit of trivia for you back in the day. Eric, who lost to David Dinkins in New York City's mayoral race only to beat him 4 years later?
Ed Koch.
No, it's America's mayor. He's a laughing
Rudy Giuliani.
He's a laughing stock now, yeah. Well, I'm sorry you didn't get that one.
Oh, yeah, sorry, me too. How many did you get?
I got all 3.
So you have 14, and I got 2?
10, yeah, so 14 to 10.
14 to 10. Well, you know what? Dims to berries.
That's
I'm
right.
going to come back.
Yeah, I know you will. So now we will go ahead and move on to the singles that were on the charts the same week that Devo's greatest hits came out. They're not really, yeah, it's not like Devo was like, what's the current landscape like? This is just their greatest hits. But here's what was on the charts. Number 10, High Enough by Damn Yankees.
When you take me
Yeah. That's Ted Nugent was in Damn Yankees, so I'm not a big fan too much anymore.
Well, that's a super group, so
Yeah.
What are the other guys' politics? Maybe it's just like Congress.
Okay, well, you're right. Good call. Number 12, not number 12. It was 12 last week. It's number 9 this week. Freedom, or Freedom 90, if you will, by George Michael. Great song.
And I will.
Yeah,
Please.
and
then I'll have some more.
Not only is it a great song, it was a really great video too, and so
Yeah, and like just so 1990.
yeah, it was like it was perfect. It's like chef's kiss. That's so 1990.
That is 1990 right there, visual and audio.
Yep.
Go listen to it. What do you listen to this stupid podcast
That's
for?
right.
Go listen to
Sorry.
Freedom.
Number 8, Something to Believe In by Poison.
Yeah. From the album we reviewed on this podcast, I think they still had hits, but not as many, and they weren't as good.
Oh, yeah. No, we did do that one. Yep, that's right. Right, 1990, they were ending. Give them something to believe in. Number 7, Tom's Diner. That's right. They're still touring, though. They're still going around. They just came through St. Louis, apparently. Poison and Motley Crue and Def Leppard, I believe. They played at Busch Stadium. Number 7, Do 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 Do, Tom's Diner. This is DNA featuring Suzanne Vega. So
yeah, that's one of the first sort of hits featuring a singer that they sampled.
Right, yeah, exactly. So number 6, The Way You Do the Things You Do by UB40. Wait, did UB40? I guess was Red Wine an original? I don't think UB40 did any originals, did they?
I mean, they did have originals on their albums.
Oh, okay, but none of their hits were originals, right?
No, I mean the Way You Do the Things You Do, Red Wine, Can't Help Falling in Love.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sort of were like a reggae cover band essentially. But I mean, I liked it at the time.
That's right. I remember liking it too. Number 5, I don't remember this other song by Wilson and Phillips, Impulsive. That one.
Yeah.
If it's not Hold On, I don't know it.
Right, exactly. I mean, recently I was watching some MTV Classic, and a video for a Wilson Phillips song that was not Hold On came on, and I paid attention so closely.
I think if I saw that, my brain would just be like, does not compute. So.
I was paying attention to it so closely that I don't remember what it was called, even though I watched the whole video and listened to it. So I don't know if it's Impulsive or not, but it was very noticeable that the two thinner members of Wilson Phillips were like very prominent in this video, and that like they would cut to like a black and white fuzzy thing of is it Phillips with Carney?
I think it's China, right?
China Phillips. So I don't know who the heavier person is, but anyway, she just was on a
Carney Wilson I believe is the heavier one.
Oh, Carney Wilson. There you go. Yeah. Anyway, she was just like in a different video. She was black and white and fuzzy. So anyway, it might be Impulsive. I'm not sure. I don't have anything else to offer on that.
Okay. Number 4, Justify My Love by Madonna, which I will always remember just more for the Saturday Night Live Wayne's World of it.
I remember that was pretty early for me to have like this sexualized thing in my life because my sister really liked Madonna, so it was like confusing for 12-year-old Eric.
Yeah, sure. Number 3, I'm Your Baby Tonight by Whitney Houston.
Whatever you want from me.
Yeah.
I've given you everything.
Number 2, From a Distance by Bette Midler.
Earth Day. And so on.
And then number 1, Because I Love You, parentheses, The Postman Song by Stevie B.
Because I love you. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember that. I didn't. If you had asked me who sang that song, I would not have been able to pull Stevie B out of anywhere.
Stevie B. I think friend of the show, Alicia Spiegel, actually knew that bit of trivia and impressed me recently.
Oh, well,
or maybe not recently.
You're a hard man to impress. So hats off to Alicia Spiegel.
That I am. I guess, Gary, what we do next is I ask you a question in either or format about Devo.
Yep.
So we can get started to talking about their whole freaking career, I guess.
Yeah, it will. I mean, no, let's just talk about their album, this greatest hits album.
Well, I know, but that is their whole career, right?
They released an album called Greatest Misses also, so...
That's true.
Yeah.
I think that's cute. But,
that's adorbs.
I didn't put any work into it. I didn't listen to it. But anyway, so, I mean, to be honest, when I listened to this, I knew that they had Whip It and they had those hats, right? In the Whip It video, which are like 3 cylinders and they're orange. And they have silly outfits. And I've seen the Whip It video like many times. Mm-hmm. And then I also knew I Can't Get No Satisfaction from the movie Casino.
Okay.
Of which it's used heavily. I didn't know it was Devo, though. And so I knew those 2 things. And those are on their first and second albums.
Yep.
So my either or is either I could have just listened to their first and second album, do you think? Or do you feel like, yeah, you should listen to all these greatest hits more than what you already knew? Good thing we listened to it. That's
well, I had
yes? No?
I owned this on CD, so I knew this. I'm familiar with this, and no, I think this is actually probably the better way to go than their first and second album. I think their first album, We Are Not Men, We Are Not Men, We Are Devo. Yeah, it has. I guess it has Jocko Homo, Gut Feelings, I Can't Get No Satisfaction. So yeah, I mean that's a good album to listen to, but I think you don't get "Girl You Want." I don't believe that's on their first two albums, which is a great song. Or "Beautiful World," or "Working in a Coal Mine." Is that on their first two albums? No. So, "Girl You Want" is on their second album.
So you'd say, yeah, they had more to offer the world than those two things that I was aware of.
Yes,
so it's a good thing I listened to this whole thing.
Right, yeah. Did you enjoy listening to Devo? I mean, that's the thing about greatest hits is you either like the band or you don't. And,
Yeah.
You know, and they're going to be like, because like sometimes we listen to albums and it's like I don't really like this band, but I think they're doing something good on this song. We usually find something, but then greatest hits is kind of like, yeah, I mean that's the band, and you like them or you don't.
I think I probably come down more on the not liking Devo, but not disliking them. Like I keep trying to get into it. I do like the Rolling Stones cover. Because they do something totally different with the song. They turn it into this other thing, which is really creative and cool. And I've always liked Whip It. I guess I like this song Gut Feeling.
Yeah.
And to a little bit lesser extent, Gates of Steel, which seemed like both of those songs they were actually trying to go in a little bit of a different direction than some of these songs, which are a little
what's the
just
one?
the generic Devo stuff going on, and you know, I mean, he's sort of got a David Byrne, clap your hands, say yeah, kind of a voice where it's if you like his voice, good on you, but I wouldn't say that the mass of humanity appreciate his singing voice.
Yeah, that's
maybe.
Mark Mothersbaugh, who has gone on to be an amazing film composer. But like he does the score.
I appreciate that work better.
Yeah. But then there's one of these songs also is on the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou soundtrack. Which one was that? It's an instrumental one. Gut Feeling. That's right.
I like that song.
Yeah, that's a good one. And Freedom of Choice is a good one. I remember Weird Al Yankovic doing part of Jocko Homo in one of his polka songs, and so that was always. And I heard that first before hearing Devo.
Oh,
and so that always it's like, oh wait, I wanted to go faster and in a polka sound.
Do you know they were big in Australia?
I did not know that.
Yeah, they are. They're from Akron, Ohio, but as they got like into the sort of middle of their career, they were quite popular in Australia. They toured Australia a lot. They were on like Australian TV shows and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I could also say that I know just another anecdote with Weird Al. You know, he did a song "Dare to Be Stupid." Are you familiar with that one?
Oh, I am very familiar with "Dare to Be Stupid."
And so that's a pastiche of Devo. And Mark Mothersbaugh was like, "Yeah, Weird Al Yankovic wrote the best Devo song that I didn't write." You know, so.
Well, they definitely have a vibe and almost a little bit of a formula for some of these, the way they sound.
Right.
I don't know how to explain what's going on here. It's like a slap in the bass with a very heavy synthesizer forward and his shouting lyrics kind of a thing. But
right.
good instrumentation, right? It's not like a novelty.
No, I think they all knew. Yeah, they were all pretty well talented. Like, so Mark Mothersbaugh, I think, has his bona fides because he's gone on to. So he's very knowledgeable musically. And then it's his brother, Bob Mothersbaugh, is also in the band. And then the two other brothers, the Casales brothers, Gerald and Bob Casales, are in the band. And then I think there was a fifth member, right? Are there 5 members? Some of these covers only have 4 members. right?
Yeah.
So, they definitely had a shtick with not only, I think, oh no, there's 5. There definitely is 5. And kind of prototypes, like certain bands have their own style, I guess. They dressed alike. They would always be in matching outfits. I guess when I say, like you talked about the Whip It video, they're all wearing black with the red hats and everything like that. So
yeah, they had costumes and
yeah,
masks
that's
and
right.
stuff. Yeah, this is an interesting thing about them forming. The Devo is de-evolution, right?
Right.
And that humanity was going in the opposite direction. We had peaked, and Gerald Casale and Bob Lewis created at Kent State University a number of satirical art pieces in a devolution vein.
Oh,
This
nice.
is before they were in the band.
Excellent.
And at the time, Mark Mothersbaugh was in a band as the keyboardist, but the band he was in was called Flossie Bobbit, which I like. I like
Yes.
that a lot.
Yeah, and I think Devo. Not only did they have their own kind of style, I think the fact that they had that style, they wore their costumes, helped, because this was the beginning of MTV and music videos, and so it was kind of like what are these guys? What?
Well, yeah, I mean, like if they were doing any kind of performance art at Kent State, I mean, this sort of fits, right? That you would have sort of matching outfits and a sort of very clear lyrics and a strange video presentation and stuff. Like they were kind of arty, but like in a strange way.
Right.
Sort of like David Sedaris art pieces that he talks about in his books, where he's like setting toy soldiers on fire and crying or whatever. But so what kind of place did this hold in your heart when you were a teenager? Did you have it? You didn't have it in 1990, did you?
No, it was something I got later. I think in high school, maybe even college. I'm pretty sure actually college is when I picked it up. I was, probably out of the used CD bin. I was kind of like, oh yeah, let me get this one.
You don't have to be in denial about liking Devo.
No.
It fell into my lap.
Gift. Yeah, exactly. No, it was an ex-girlfriend. An ex-girlfriend just left it at my house.
I really don't like them. I never did,
right.
But like somebody told me to give me money if I listen to the CD.
So, no, I don't think, it didn't have a big place in my heart, but there were enough songs on it that I enjoy. I'd listen to it every now and then, be like, I think it would always kind of be, I guess there was like moods that I'd go in, because I think I also had Blondie's greatest hits, and I've talked,
Same.
and I've talked of my 5 CD disc changer that I would be like shuffle, and so I put in Devo's greatest hits, Blondie's greatest hits. What are some of the other bands? I think the Ramones. I had the Ramones greatest hits. So I'd throw in, be like, okay, I'm kind of in this new wave mood. Let me throw this in and hit shuffle.
I mean, in the world of CDs costing $20, I mean, a greatest hits album starts to look pretty attractive, just because that you're going to have a lot of songs on there that you're going to like for most artists. Like I had Springsteen's greatest hits and Petty and that you get a lot of Creedence. I had Creedence greatest hits.
Oh yeah.
Like it's a good. Oh, Bowie had Changes.
Oh yeah, Changes Bowie. Yeah.
And and everybody had that Bob Marley greatest hits.
That's right, Legend. Yeah.
So greatest hits are. I mean, I think they get a bad rap. I mean, usually it's because a band is either stalling for the most part or they broke up.
Right. Yeah.
So it's never like a great like feeling when it comes out, I don't think. But later on, it's it's a pretty sweet little thing.
Well, right,
I mean,
and that's where like you're like I think Devo has their tongue in cheek too with greatest hits, and then they had a companion album, Greatest Misses.
and were the greatest misses B-sides, you think, or were they just the songs they liked off of their albums that weren't hits?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I never did have that one. I just had the greatest hits.
You never wanted to get greatest misses?
No. So yeah, that's where I never really was too much into Devo. Just as I enjoyed the greatest hits, but other than I wasn't a hardcore Devo fan.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I was trying to get a vibe of that on the internet. Like, does anybody like them for real? Like for real, or are they all just sort of joking?
Does anybody ever be like, I sincerely think Devo is my favorite band?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I'm sure there's people that say that about Weezer, that's their favorite band, but I think that Devo might just be a rung, different rung than your Weezers.
Right.
But I'm glad I got to listen to some of these ones that weren't Whip It, and I was happy to be reminded of the way that he does Can't Get No Satisfaction, and I'm glad to figure out who that was.
Right.
Baby.
That's right. I can't get no.
Pretty cool.
So you can play.
I can't give me no.
You want to go ahead and give yourself a spectrum. Is go ahead and do the Rolling Stones, Can't Get No Satisfaction, Devo's I Can't Get No Satisfaction, and then Otis Redding's Satisfaction. And you're kind of like, whoa. Yeah, all three. Like, those are three different songs, but they're the same song.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It just depends on the listener, I suppose, if that's acceptable. A lot of times you get that thing where the first way you ever heard it is the right one.
Oh, right.
And the other ones sound wrong and weird.
Yes.
Like our friend of the show, Scott Reithel, was telling me how much he hates Sheryl Crow's "Sweet Child of Mine."
Oh, yeah.
And I hate that, but I get it. I mean,
sure,
it's not Guns N' Roses.
No. And it depends on what kind of song. Like, I think Satisfaction has become, I don't know. It doesn't have a big. Maybe somebody from the '60s might not like the Devo's version or Otis Redding's version, but I think by the time I came upon it, it was kind of like a nothing song already. And so, other people interpreting it, I enjoy it.
Yeah,
So,
for some reason, I feel like the Stones are a little less sacred anyway.
Yeah.
Certain bands that
sure.
I would not like them to be covered, but if you can do something this different, I'm down. I like this cover.
And do you remember there was a Target ad with a Beautiful World? I remember that going around back in the day.
Really?
Yeah. It was like kind of like
what's on the commercial? Like, what do they show?
It was basically that you can furnish a lot of your house from using Target, and it's like so it's just like it's a beautiful world you're living in, and it's like, oh yeah, I want to buy stuff from Target because it's a beautiful world.
Yeah, well, they know who's buying stuff from Target. It's people our age and 10 years older.
That's right.
But anyway,
you want to
be negative. You want to rank this greatest hits? I mean, they're greatest hits,
right?
So obviously, they were already great. They don't need our help.
Nope.
But how many stars would you give this based on, your listens in the 5-disc changer?
Yeah, I give it 3 stars. I think it's, like I said, either you like Devo or not. If you do like Devo, this is probably the only album you really need.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm more of I think Devo are fine. I didn't need this much Devo. I would have preferred, like a playlist you make me where it's got like 3 of these songs on
Sure.
it and some other stuff.
Some
it was
Blondie
a lot
mixed
of Devo.
in, some Ramones mixed
Some
in.
Blondies, some Ramones, yeah, and you just make it however you just make it random,
That's right.
Just as long as you don't play the Eagles' greatest hits, which is a greatest hits I never had nor wanted.
Right. Oh, sure.
Although Elton's greatest hits, those are good.
Yeah. There's one where he's like sitting next to a piano and being like, "Look, I got my hands up, piano." What was that one?
I mean, he is sitting next to a piano on the greatest hits, but I think he's got a hat on, and he's not making any kind of expression that I'm aware of.
Okay,
like maybe a small smile.
Maybe I'm misremembering that then.
I mean, I like your album cover more.
Well, let's get him to do that.
All right. Well, so we rated it. We talked about it. We didn't play any of it. I think everybody is okay with that, don't you think?
That's right. Yeah,
Especially
I think that's okay.
Devo.
That's right. I think everybody's okay with that.
All right. And we'll be back in the second half of the episode, right?
That's right. To talk about Bonfire of the Vanities by director Brian DePalma.
Okay. Here we go. My name is Peter Fallow, the man of the moment, the toast of the town. But it wasn't always this way. Let me tell you how it all began. In the 80s, making money and living well was all that mattered. And no one did it better than Sherman McCoy. Now he was a master of the universe.
Sorry, collated? Let's not lose our composure over a few $100 million.
No one could resist him. Not his mistress.
This could be the best sex we've had in a long time.
Not even his dog.
It's raining and he's not happy about it, Mr. McCoy. Here am I, Bill.
I, on the other hand, was a reporter in need of a story.
This is Peter Fallow, the house beat.
Oh, Shantae.
In need of a spark. Which is exactly what I got.
It's a body.
It looks like...
It's an animal.
No. I think it's a tire.
The dead tire?
I turned that spark into a flame.
Hello, Peter. I think there's a hell of a story.
We're investigating an automobile accident. Yeah, on television. Last night, my wife, we said, we have a Mercedes.
Mr. McCoy, is this something you want to tell us?
And the flame spread. Did you say Henry Lamb was an honor student?
Good doesn't really apply at Rupert High. They're either cooperative or life-threatening.
Nothing is going to come about all these people.
All right. You hear that in the background? You hear the trailer for the Bonfire, the Vanities. Trailer voice guy is doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
And that tinkly piano. It's
Dun, 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 dun.
That's right.
It's
That's right. That's right.
It's better than the Dave Grusin soundtrack.
That's right.
Which what the hell, dude? But yeah, welcome back, Gary. We just got done sort of having kind of a wishy-washy discussion of Devo's greatest hits, but we're back.
The only kind of discussion that Devo's greatest hits deserves.
I mean, I don't want to be mean, but that was the most I could get worked up about that. But what we like to do now is tell you a little bit about what was going on at the Bafo BO. And there were a lot of movies making money this weekend. But this weekend was the first weekend that the Bonfire of the Vanities was in the top 10. It was released this week. It cost between $40 and $50 million to make, and it came out in 10th place, making $5.6 million. Number 9 was Three Men and a Little Lady, which is a Thanksgiving picture, probably not as big a hit as the predecessor. Number 8, the Michelle Pfeiffer, Sean Connery movie that I've never seen, The Russia House.
The Russia House. I think you got to say it like Sean.
Welcome to the Russia House.
That's right.
It's warm in here because I turned up the heat in the Russia House.
The Russia House.
He was in the Russia House and the Hunt for Red October like back to back. He's Scottish.
Interesting. You're right.
Number 7, Misery, Love's Company, like all these hit movies.
That's right. R.I.P. James Caan.
R.I.P. Rest in power.
That's right.
It'd been out for 4 weeks at this time though that it was number 7, 3 ahead of the Bonfire of the Vanities. I might also point out that in Brian DePalma's previous movie, which was his most mainstream hit before Mission Impossible came out, Sean Connery really classed up the joint in The Untouchables.
Oh, but you're not saying that's his right before, because he did Casualty of War in between Untouchables and Bonfire of the Vanities.
Right, but I'm saying 2 movies ago, before in time, he was with Sean Connery.
That's right.
Who got an Oscar nomination for The Untouchables. So
playing
Brian De Palma mainstream hit with a Oscar nomination, and I cannot emphasize that enough that it looked like a good idea. Number 6 is Edward Scissorhands, best movie we've mentioned so far. Number 5, Look Who's Talking 2, which is where John Travolta's career was before Pulp Fiction.
It's so weird. I'm a baby. The baby's talking to me.
Baby's talking. Do you think we'll have to make a third one of these pieces of shit?
Bruce Willis, though, and Look Who's Talking Too. I mean, he ruled the box office the week of number 10 and number 5 movie.
Yeah, and he continued to be a movie star after this, and then Hudson Hawk afterwards.
That's right.
Crazy. Because he saved it with The Last Boy Scout. So we really have investigated this little corner of Bruce Willis's career on the podcast.
And we also did Die Hard 2 right around this time.
Which totally rules. So whatever. Bruce Willis, he can be great, but not in a bad movie. Number 3, Godfather, Part 3. So everybody had their big thing that they were working on at this time. Columbia had Awakenings, and Havana was Universal's big thing that they were working on. Paramount had Godfather Part 3, and Bonfire of the Vanities was at Warner Brothers. And so they were all shooting around the same time or finishing up around the same time, and they were all supposed to be the Christmas blockbuster / Oscar winner, thing. No, not so much really with any of them, except for I guess Awakenings won or was at least nominated for a few.
Yeah.
But Godfather Part 3 is opening the same weekend as Bonfire of the Vanities in 3rd place. Kindergarten Cop opened higher than the Godfather Part 3.
It's not a tumor.
It's not a tumor. It's not even anything like a tumor.
Right.
But none of the major studios could top 20th Century Fox's cheap little Home Alone, which was number 1 for the 6th week at this point.
Oh, wow.
6
weeks at number 1.
Yeah, it was. It made $23 million the 6th week it was out, adding to its cum of 126 on its way to 300 million. I think it made a ton of money, and
I just really
it
hope
was made for peanuts. All they had to do was destroy a suburban home in Chicago.
That's right. I just really hope Daniel Stern got some of the back end.
Yeah. Do you think that they constructed the sets of the house for Home Alone, or do you think that's all just in a house?
That's a good question. I don't know. Probably all in a house.
Bonfire of the Vanities apartment stuff is all just a soundstage. Sherman McCoy's apartment and the apartment that Maria is staying in that is not her apartment were all built and production designed for months and months and months while they were filming in New York. And I didn't think twice about those apartment scenes. Even Sherman's huge apartment with all the rooms and everything. That if you went around to the other side of the wall, it would just be plywood.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, they're professionals. That's their job. They've been making. That's the magic of the movies. So okay, that's what was at the box office the week. We're talking about the Bonfire of the Vanities, based on a big bestseller by Tom Wolfe.
Tom Wolfe.
Tom Wolfe. Eric. So I guess it's either or. I don't know if you've read the book, but I've not read the book.
I have.
Oh, okay.
I have read the book.
So I guess I've not read it, but either they were just the wrong people to make this movie, or this book just couldn't be made into a good movie.
I really think that it is the second thing you said.
Yeah.
I do not think that the book is a very good story. And when you're left with so his satirical prose and his very witty ways of putting people down and all of the different like commentary essentially he was making on late period 80s. I mean, he's a journalist, so he sort of talks about stuff a lot. And I mean, the story is somewhat clever, I guess, to begin with, but I'm going to be honest. I did not really like reading The Bonfire of the Vanities.
Oh, you didn't care for
the whole
book
thing.
either. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm with it. I'm open to it. I get it. But I'm not sure I liked it.
Okay. So you already didn't like the book. So going into the movie, you're like, well, I didn't like the source material. I'm not going to like this movie. Well,
sort of, Gary, but between those two events, I read the book a while back. But then in between those two things, I read this book called The Devil's Candy, which is a book by Julie Solomon about the entire making of this movie. For some reason, DePalma let her hang around from pre-production to all the way through post-production, and she wrote a book about it. And it could have been a book about a big hit, movie, or it could have been what it is, which is like really showing every crevice of how this movie was made. So by the time I was watching it a couple nights ago, I was actually really excited to see it because I had heard so many different variations of the different scenes talked about and stuff about the screenplay and how hard it was to get certain shots and stuff. So I was actually really interested from a filmmaking and a story perspective, but it was still boring.
Yes.
And I knew a whole lot about all the boring scenes, but it was still, I mean, especially I would say like about halfway through the movie till about the 80% mark, it's like really rough going.
Yeah, I mean, it's just introducing these characters, and it's kind of like, am I supposed to care about any of these yet?
How am I supposed to feel about anybody in this movie, right, is the question that you would want to ask. And Tom Wolfe would answer with his book, is you're supposed to laugh at all of them. You're supposed to. They are all people of scorn.
Yep.
So we look down on Sherman because he's this worthless rich guy who's living off the backs of other people. His X-ray wife, which was Tom Wolfe's non-PC way of talking about the very, very thin wives of these men. And then, we've got Maria, who's the devil's candy, in the flesh, trying to tempt him away. But she's just a gold digger. She changes her mind about everything over and over again. Nobody is likable in the book at all. But
everybody... I was going to say, everybody is equally unlikable, though. So it like kind of levels the playing field for everybody, right? Is what I gathered.
Yes, definitely. So one of the major things that this movie does from the get-go is they tried to make it into a story of Sherman Hemsley being Sherman McCoy being somebody that you end up siding with,
Right.
because they thought that was a way to sell the movie, is if in the end he's somebody that you side with, and then it's more of a, a traditional sort of movie, and so that's why they cast Tom Hanks, and they had Tom Hanks because it was either Peter Guber or John Peters, one or the other. They had just come off of Batman, right? The huge hit.
Yeah.
And they wanted to make this movie with Tom Hanks, right? And they put it all together, including the screenwriter, including DePalma, before any of that, before they even started making it. But they had Tom Hanks before they had a screenwriter or a director, and that was the idea, the producer's idea. Now the funny thing is they left Warner Brothers, and this was made without them. But that was, I think, the original flawed idea of this entire production. Is like Tom Hanks is doing a little bit of the performance he did in Big in this movie, which is like this kid in this. Well, first of all, he just played a kid that turned into an adult in the big city. You should not make another movie right away about him being in the big city, but be Sherman McCoy. He's supposed to be like the biggest alpha male, like douchebag,
Right?
Like super handsome, waspy. I don't know. It's just bad casting, but the idea is that it's such bad casting, somehow he'll save the movie and make it likable, which he really tries to do.
Yeah, he does his darndest. There's a reason why he is a movie star and everybody likes him so much, is because he does have charisma and personality, and that even comes through. But it's like, but you're playing a character that, you're cheating on your wife, you're only concerned about money. Like the whole scene where it's like his job is that he gets the crumbs from the cake.
Well, but that is her bitterness that she found out that he's having an affair, kind of a scene. What do you think of Kim Cattrall's performance in this movie?
It's definitely over the top, but I guess it works. Like maybe at the party when she's like, Sherman, if you would have checked your calendar.
Yes.
I think
that's one of the funniest parts of the movie, when he comes home after having been in jail.
Yeah, and it's just a kind of party.
And they're having a cocktail party, and everyone's there. I told Alicia that it sort of reminded me of that movie Mother, the Aronofsky movie, where there's like a constant annoying party at her house. Did you see that movie?
No, I haven't watched Mother.
Well, check it out. It's very strange. But I would say that scene, and then the part where he gets the gun and he's using a deep focus lens to focus on the barrel, and everything looks distorted, and he's shooting holes in the ceiling.
Yes,
all of that. I thought that was almost like Terry Gilliam-esque.
I was also, it's a very Brazil like.
Yeah. And I really do think that at its heart, number one, Tom Hanks shouldn't be Sherman McCoy for sure. Bruce Willis shouldn't be in the film.
Well, definitely his narration, like that is so. And it's almost. I think that's what made me think, like, is this not able to be filmed because it's a book? And so it's like, okay, so sometimes books you need the narration because they. As they adapt it, but it's like it just doesn't work in this movie at all, because it's kind of like,
well, it's I think what it was is that Bruce Willis was such a big name at the time. They'd pay $5 million for him to be in this movie in this part.
Yeah.
And they wanted more Willis. There's like stretches with no Bruce Willis in the movie. So I think that's so it's just like decisions are made for like wrong-headed reasons in a lot of situations when they were making this. And I think partially it was that De Palma had been, you mentioned Casualties of War, pretty much crushed his spirit, because he thought he made a masterpiece, and it was almost universally dismissed by at least audiences.
Right.
And so, I think that he thought, okay, I'll do the prestige picture. I'll kind of do what they want. But on the other hand, he also was like, I don't think we can play this straight. I wanted to, and he did say he wanted it to be like Strangelove, like heightened, right, characters. And so I think Kim Cattrall was probably doing as she was told.
Yeah.
And I think Melanie Griffiths was probably doing as she was told, whereas Tom Hanks was being Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that he, like, that character. I mean, he was a kind of a limited actor at this time, I think, too. He kind of had the splash big guy.
Yeah.
Like, he goes through more changes in pathos in Joe versus the Volcano, which is his next movie. I don't know what Sherman's actually supposed to be going through, and essentially he turns into this wrongly accused kind of a guy by the end.
Yep.
And it's very clear that he's not wrongly accused. He's an accessory to possible murder, right? Like,
right.
It's not, he did not do anything. So that doesn't work. But De Palma doesn't go all in on that either, right? Like, he doesn't make it a Hitchcockian wrongly accused, which could have been entertaining. But it isn't a genre picture. It doesn't belong in any genre, really.
No. I think, it was smart, too, that they went ahead and hired Michael Christopher to write this.
Mm-hmm.
He was coming off of the big hit of Witches of Eastwick, and it's like, a nice literary adaptation. Let's get Michael Christopher to write it. But I don't know if it's... Yeah.
Well, he had won the Pulitzer Prize for a play, and then he did Witches of Eastwick, and he was like a known quantity, and the Witches of Eastwick book was supposed to be hard to film too, right?
Yeah.
So they were like, he can do it. And if you read this screenplay, it does condense a lot of the elements of the book into a coherent story, right?
Right.
It's just that the story's not that interesting in the book, really. I mean, there's a couple of twists, not much, like a couple of betrayals, but that's obviously not. You can even tell watching this movie that's not what the story's about.
Right.
But if you're not supposed to be emotionally invested in the story, then what are you supposed to be feeling while you watch this, right?
Right. I don't know. Yeah, there's a couple good jokes, but then some of the jokes are like F. Murray Abraham's character is kind of like too broad to kind of any of his stuff to land. And
okay, but imagine Dr. Strangelove, though.
Yeah.
And if I think F. Murray Abraham was doing what he was told. Like, he even has a huge map of New York City behind him.
The big board.
And he's like pointing to the areas, of the town as he's giving this horrible, racist, profanity-laden speech. It's funny-ish, and within the context of, like, if Kim Cattrall's character, Melanie Griffith's character, and maybe his character and a couple others, like especially the guy that dies at dinner.
Oh yeah. Richard King, right? Isn't that his name?
But so some of the people are doing it.
Alan King.
He does get her done with some weird ass shots in this movie. Like, I was entertained by the. Whether it was his first unit director, the second unit director, which did a lot of really interesting stuff, or Vilmos Zsigmond, Academy Award-winning cinematographer.
Right.
And Brian DePalma. I mean, there's a scene shot from the ceiling looking down on this patterned carpet.
What was that scene where Hanks and the other guy are talking on the phone, and it's above them, and they're walking around? Like, it's like it was a cool shot, but it was kind of like, what? Why? Why is that shot?
Well, I think that. Okay, this is what happened, is that it's not an interesting screenplay, but like De Palma was like, well, they want to make a movie out of this book. And so he basically just did a bunch of visually interesting things, like whatever he wanted to do. Like the opening tracking shot's really impressive.
And MVP Rita Wilson, Mrs. Hanks. She
stole that part. She sort of Betty Davis, or she what's it called? What's the Betty Davis movie where the woman takes her role?
All About Eve. Yep.
Yeah, she All About Eve. That she showed up pregnant to visit with Tom Hanks, and De Palma gave this other actress's role to her because he liked her vibe.
Oh, well, yeah, sure. And she does she's got like a good, maybe not 5-minute, but 3-minute monologue at the beginning and on this tracking shot. And so while everything else
and
is
you're
going
either
on,
having a good time with De Palma or you're rolling your eyes at him. But I think it's fun. I mean, that tracking shot has so much choreography, and like it gets on a moving vehicle, people get off, it gets on an elevator, gets off an elevator. There's refilled drinks, there's broken drinks, there's salmon mousse.
Yes.
I don't know. I think he's having a good time there.
Well, and he's done that again, where that long tracking shot, like I said in a text message, Snake Eyes. He's always done that because of a Touch of Evil.
Right. But this was I think the first time he did it. But anyway, he just loves technical precision and brilliance, What do you think? So that was really the actual, I don't know if it's Merrill Lynch or one of the big trading floors. That's actually there. That's not a set or anything. They allowed them to film there.
Yeah.
And instead of making a big deal of the majesty of it, they do this very strange, deep focus telescopic shot where you can see clearly like Tom Hanks and the guy he's talking to in the foreground, but you can also see the whole back wall and everything on the edges gets warped a little. That's very strange. It does have a sort of a Brazil feel to it, and I think that might be the weird camera angles and a lot of it being sets. Despite the fact that they filmed in New York City, there's just not a lot of it outside.
Right.
Except for the Bronx scenes, which are the most racist part of the movie.
Well, right, yeah, that's horrible.
But to be fair, I mean, the novel was much more racist than this movie is. Like, this is way toned down from Wolf's screeds.
Well, right, and I think isn't though in Wolf's defense, he was like trying to show how racist New York was, at that time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And the movie suffers from being that way too. It's like, this isn't a real character with real emotions. It's like a character that's supposed to represent something that I don't like.
Right.
Which maybe works for some people. I'm not a literary critic by any means, so I hesitate to say stuff about this book, but I feel like people liked the sentiment a little more than really they liked the book, maybe. And it did make you feel clever and not a yuppie to like the Bonfire of the Vanities. Like, you weren't one of these rich yuppies in New York City if you liked the Bonfire of the Vanities, but then you also knew all about them. Right?
That was Kirsten
so sort of like
Dunst?
a love-hate thing. Yeah.
I didn't get that.
Called that.
I didn't see
Kirsten Dunst, Tom Hanks' daughter. Tom Hanks and Kim Cattrall clearly would make Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, right. Which I thought she was in. Was this before Interview with the Vampire? It had to be, the Interview with the Vampire.
By like 6 years.
Right. I thought that was her first thing, but no, I guess she was in this.
No, she was a working stiff with like 2 lines in this movie.
Yeah.
If we're supposed to side with Sherman, what the hell is he doing with his daughter? He never talks to her. He never thinks about her. Never makes decisions based on her. Why is she even character in this movie at all?
Right.
Just because she's in the book, I guess. Whatever. I don't know. It's tough. But it's impeccably made. The whole thing is really well made.
Yes.
And you can see that, you get Vilmo Sigmund, you get David Christopher, you get Brian De Palma, you get they had 2 award-winning editors because they needed to edit it so freaking fast. That's the other thing that happened with this movie is that they said we want it out by Christmas, and they were filming in the spring and summer into the fall, and then they had to do all the post-production super fast. So there's some major changes made due to screen tests, and who knows if there's like a funnier cut of this, or if there's a movie that has the tone sort of a little better. But I mean, they're all going to star Tom Hanks.
It almost seems like they got Michael Christopher and Vio Zsigmond, whose both of their previous movie was The Witches of Eastwick. You know who might have been a better comedy director for this? Mike Nichols.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
I think he was busy. Honestly,
I wonder what he was doing.
I think they wanted him, but he was busy. They tried to get lots of other people, even Spielberg. DePalma knew he was like the one of the last choices.
Sure.
And it was like a strange idea somebody had, like, what about Brian De Palma? And I guarantee it's because he made the Untouchables, right? Because it wasn't Wise Guys starring Joe Piscopo that got him this gig, and it wasn't, Body Double, which not only flopped, it also like confirmed everybody's worst suspicions about him. But he's just a weird guy. I mean, but he's certainly talented. I've always enjoyed just watching his camera move. And he really takes it seriously.
Well, right. And he did, whoever was like, well, he did do The Untouchables. That is a legitimate reason, because The Untouchables is great. 4 stars. It's a perfect movie. So
Right. The Untouchables is unimpeachably great. But Brian De Palma brought to The Untouchables what Brian De Palma brings to every movie, I would say. It's just that that movie's kind of square but smart. David Mamet wrote it, right? And the story is the good guys beat the bad guys.
That's right. And Kevin Costner clearly is Elliot Ness in that one.
He's the good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like Captain America in that movie. And it's just tons of fun. And the bad guys are violent and horrible.
That's right.
It's great. And so, yeah, sure. Maybe if David Mamet had written this movie, it would have been better. I don't know.
Well,
they got Dave Grusin, because Grusin did a bunch of like famous movies and nominated and won for Oscars. So it's like they're just picking expensive people out of a hat to make this movie, even though like they just don't fit the movie at all. Like,
no.
Not only is it miscast, it's CAST cast as well.
Yeah.
Like it's there's just so much wrong with it. And like I think Willis was in the early stages of like, I need to diversify my career because I can't just make blow 'em up movies forever. Because he had made like a Vietnam vet movie, In Country, is that right? I'm not sure. Before this,
I don't remember that one.
And he wanted this to be his little feather in his cap, so he lobbied for this part, even though Peter Fallow is like a skinny British reporter in the book.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that he's British is kind of crucial, I think, because he's looking from the outside in on American culture in a lot of ways. And it's like, if only there were some funny Brits.
Right. Yeah. John Cleese actually probably would have been a good person for that.
Right. Yeah. What are we thinking about Melanie Griffith's performance, Gary?
Yeah. You know what? I was trying to, I don't know if she's the right, like she's great in Working Girl, and it's kind of like, this is kind of a similar role. And I guess it's kind
if you're
of,
if you're supposed to hate her in Working Girl,
that's
I guess.
Right. I mean, and it's supposed to be funny that she mispronounces those big words all the time, and it's kind of like.
Do you think that was funny in the screenplay, or if like Palma came up with that? Because like sometimes it's okay. I don't know if Brian De Palma is actually all that funny.
Yeah, I think that's the problem too. I mean, he may enjoy a good laugh, but I mean, has he made any comedy movies in his career other than this attempt? No, I don't think so.
Wise Guys.
Oh yeah,
That Wise Guys movie that I told you about.
That's right.
That was also a comedy, but a failure. Yeah, so I think that's a problem. It's not funny. And you would think, I mean, he is a lot like Kubrick. He's methodical. He really cares about cinema and the visual storytelling and stuff like that. But for some reason, Kubrick did have a sense of humor. Or maybe there's Peter Sellers.
It was Peter Sellers and Terry Southern, I think, is quite, a co-writer of... But yeah, Peter Sellers being that funny. And I think George C. Scott had a sense of humor, and he got it. He knew it, too, because he was great in that.
Well, I mean, and the tone is appropriate, like throughout Strangelove. Like, everybody is playing the same game. There's some straight men, and there's some... wild cards, but everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas in this movie, I think Tom Hanks is actually being asked to do what he's doing, and he's doing it well, but it doesn't make sense for him to be doing that and Cattrall and Griffith to be doing what they're doing. Like,
right.
They're from different universes. Like, it doesn't make sense that they would even interact to me. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. De Palma really, really liked young Uma Thurman for the role of Maria, which I feel like it'd be better as the devil's candy at the time, as far as why you might, leave your wife or whatever for a much younger woman. Whereas Maria's kind of mean, and she may even be a little older than Kim Cattrall, which is not usually the stereotype.
No, right. Yeah, Uma Thurman, yeah, she coming off of Dangerous Liaisons. She would have been a good call.
Yeah, she almost got it. She almost got it, and at the last second they went with Melanie Griffith. But really, nobody had seen Melanie Griffith in a little while because she had had a baby and was kind of off the grid since Working Girl, I think, or maybe just like a little. She did Pacific. She had Pacific Heights.
Was it Dakota? She had Dakota.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Right. I was telling the night that we watched this, Ash watched Cha Cha Roll Smooth by himself.
Yes.
And that got Dakota Johnson. And I said, well, the movie we watched had Dakota Johnson's mom in it.
Yes.
And then I said, and I read a book about the making of this movie, and she hung out on the set with her mom and Brian De Palma when they were making Bonfire of the Vanities. So Tippi Hedren and Melanie Griffith hung out with De Palma on the set of this movie quite a bit.
I bet
they have a weird relationship.
Yeah, I'm sure. Right, and I'm sure Brian De Palma loved that, though, having Tippi Hedren around.
I'm sure he did.
Yep.
I'm sure he did. You know what else he likes to do? Go to computer stores and buy computers so he can play computer games by himself. That's what he was doing, like, kind of in his off time at this time.
Excellent.
So in 1989, Brian De Palma and I were on the exact same wavelength.
Yeah.
Except for, I didn't read this book back then.
Eric, I think we're wrapping it up, but I guess don't feel like maybe Morgan Freeman hasn't gotten talked about at all. He's the fourth build character. He's above the title even in the movie.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman.
Not on
Judge White?
Yeah, not on the poster. Why isn't he on the poster with those?
I mean, it would make as much sense. It'd be good to have Morgan Freeman in that gold dress that Melanie Griffith is wearing famously on the poster.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the original judge in the book is actually modeled on a Jewish judge, and is Jewish in the book.
Oh, okay.
Because in the Bronx, apparently, according to the Bonfire of the Vanities, used to be a more of a Jewish neighborhood, kind of middle class.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Jewish powerful judge with the courtroom full of ethnic minorities is sort of the stereotype of the book, but also very true in the Bronx, right?
Yeah.
And the judge who the judge in the book is based on actually read for this part.
Oh, really? Wow.
Actual judge.
Right.
And he was good in the screen test, apparently, but they were, I mean, it's a $40 million movie. They were afraid to do it.
Yeah.
But so then they got Alan Arkin for like $750,000. And then they were like, do we really want to have all the black people be these antagonists? So they were like, we should balance it out. And right around that time, almost exactly, this would have been, like April of 1990, Morgan Freeman was winning an Oscar for Driving Miss Daisy. So they're like, bam, let's do it.
Yeah.
But he was going to do Shakespeare in the Park. And so they had to fit it in with his schedule. And it ended up costing like an extra $3 million to have Morgan Freeman in this movie. And they had to pay Alan Arkin because they hired him and he had a contract and he wasn't even in the movie.
Nice.
So anyway, just so we can read this speech, the decency speech, what did you think?
I mean, you know what? He's actually the best, character. You know, it's like he definitely seems like, but I don't know. By the time that speech comes at the end, I was kind of like, movie, I want you to just be over. Can you be done?
I mean, that's the problem, is that maybe that speech would have been interesting at the end of some other movie, but I don't know what the hell it has to do with this situation or story. I know that he wants everybody in his courtroom to settle down. Yeah. I do know that. Did you notice that?
I noticed that. Yeah. It was his courtroom.
Very ineffective of having order in his court. Like
exactly.
just have people in contempt. Haven't you seen Law and Order, Morgan Freeman? This is a real sideshow, this audience. They're a Greek chorus. But again, DePalma thinks courtroom scenes are boring. So he really jazzed it up, and he doesn't have many of them. It's very strange. Like, do you feel like it's supposed to be real in any way?
No, I don't. I know it was all kind of, again, the whole courtroom was all kind of hyper active, I guess. It was all, again, I think it was supposed to be like, look how satire we're being, you know?
Right. But not all the scenes feel that way.
No,
right?
No, not all of them do. No.
And I really don't know what I'm supposed to feel about Bruce Willis's character at all.
No.
And I don't understand anything about his character except for that he is extremely drunk a lot.
Right. That's what I feel. I feel sorry for him, that he obviously has some depression that he's not dealing with, and he's drowning in an alcohol. So.
Right. And he is, a part of this media machine that, eats people and spits them out, which is, supposed to be sort of the other thing he's lampooning, which is, I mean, it's hard to get anything out of that nowadays because it's been, 32 years of it just going exponentially. Like it's not even notable that a guy who, was white would be tried in the Bronx for a murder or whatever. I mean, I think that might be on the news, right? But I don't think it would be the big deal it is in this movie now. There'd be 10 other things, going on at the same time.
No, it'd probably be on the news, but there's so many. It'd be like, what? He wasn't shot? That's your story. That he wasn't used a gun. He hit him with his car.
I do think that that De Palma does a fairly good job with the mechanics of the Henry Lamb. I mean, should we say the movie is about?
No, we do not need to go into that right now.
Well, anyway, the movie's about Sherman hitting a boy with his car when he's in the actually Maria does it while he's sitting in the car. So, and then they flee the scene of the crime. Anyway, I think they did a fairly good job of showing that he would be afraid and that he maybe had a reason to be afraid of these guys. They were certainly being intimidating without actual proof that they were meaning them harm,
Right.
So I think he does a fairly good job of that in that scene. I do not think that Melanie Griffith's performance does anything for any of the scenes she's in. Although they did a fairly good job, in between shooting the Manhattan stuff and shooting the stuff in LA, she got a breast augmentation. So it's a totally different bust.
Mm.
And half the scenes in the movie than
Right.
the other half. But I could only notice a couple of times.
Yes.
Only because I knew that they did a good job. But I find this I would give this movie 2 stars, and that's really qualified because I think that it's an entertaining disaster.
Yeah.
It's an intriguing film. It doesn't feel like anything else I've ever seen, and it's not just it's certainly not a half-assed bomb. Like, they were using their whole ass and then some to make this thing,
Right.
and it's still just an unwieldy behemoth. But it's not nihilistic. Like, I don't think that it's like a cash grab or anything. It's a sincere attempt to try to adapt this story. It's just such a utter failure in so many ways.
Right. Yeah, I also will give it 2 stars in that, yeah, it's a very qualified 2 stars. It's fine. I guess it's not fine. It's a bad movie, but I guess it's an interesting time capsule. So
yeah, and I mean, really kind of forgotten in a lot of ways. And obviously, Tom Hanks and Bruce Willis's careers did not suffer much. De Palma kind of got this movie hung on him, I think, for the most part.
Yeah,
and he was like, "Fine, I'll make Raising Cain next," you know.
Right.
And then he pulled out Carlito's Way, and
Mission
for
Impossible.
whatever reason, they got him to make Mission Impossible,
right.
where, you know, it was sort of a workman-like, weird camera angles kind of a guy on that one, and he can make big bucks when he wants to, I guess.
Yep.
His is really one of the strangest Hollywood careers that, you know, there ever was, because he's just such an odd duck.
Yep.
But I respect that he was trying to do something here. I think he couldn't tell it was a bad movie until it failed. And I don't know if he still would say that he thinks it's a bad movie. I think his take on it is that people don't share his sense of humor, which may be the case.
Yeah, sure.
I certainly do not.
I don't either.
I'm not sure. And you know, like you said, it might be one of these things where no matter what, it just was hard to make. But, you know, everybody picked this as being a big bomb even before it came out. Man, they were just lambasting it. And that's why it opened so low and really just kind of went away after a few weeks. But I mean, I think if you're intrigued by it, what I would recommend is reading that book, actually. And then you'll have to watch it.
Not the Bonfire of the Vanities book, but the
No,
making.
I recommend reading the Devil's Candy.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of My So-Called Podcast. We will be back in 2 weeks with another episode. Keep on living in the 90s.
Keep on rocking in the free world.
That's right.